China does a better job than the aliens in Independence Day. Vietnam are not just playing defense. Just like a game of geopolitical chess, this was no accident. Vietnam knows that China is not a friend, at least not a real one. China is playing a dangerous game, and it's not just about moving, but moving with purpose. But no one really buys that story. But here is the twist. You know, there's something brewing in the South China Sea that's more intriguing than your average international fight. Imagine this. Vietnam and the Philippines coming together like some underdog superhero duo, facing off against a much bigger and menacing enemy, and that is China. Yes, you heard it. Vietnam and the Philippines have done their first joint Coast Guard exercise. The timing couldn't be more perfect or ominous, depending on how you look at it. So just in case you're new to our channel, my name is Ken Duong, international business and immigration attorney with over 15 years of experience helping companies and individuals to invest, mobilize factories to Vietnam, M&A, and other activities here, especially in the global market. And that's exactly what we'll talk about today. So now, let's not kid ourselves. Military joint exercises together are very common. However, this one is a little bit different. The commander of the Philippine Coast Guard welcomed the Vietnamese vessels with a smile and a little bit of relief because they believe they're coming against a common enemy. The elephant, or the dragon in the room, is Chinese Communist Party, or CCP. So what's fascinating is the Philippines and Vietnam have their own territorial disputes, but they realize there's a bigger enemy, and that is China. But why? When it comes to uniting people against a common enemy, China does a better job than the aliens in Independence Day. But the Philippines and Vietnam are not just playing defense. Prior to this joint exercise, the Philippines had a joint exercise with Japan and the United States as well. So it appears that all of these countries are circling the wagon against China. While these other countries are flexing their muscles, China is not just sitting around knitting sweaters. They are also conducting their own military drills in the Scarborough Shoals, which is thousands of miles away from China, but it's a dispute between China and the Philippines. Call it a coincidence if you like, but I'd say it's more of a warning shot across the bow. Speaking of warnings, this is an action that was not so subtle. Remember when the Chinese and Philippine vessels collided in Spratly Islands? This was no accident. This was a clear message by China's Navy, one of the largest in the world, in their aggression and dominance of the South China Sea for years. And everybody knows it. China may have blamed the Philippine vessels for being in their territory, but no one really buys that story. Not even the United Nations. And what was the reaction? Crickets. But why? This action was inevitable by China. China has been poking at its neighbors to determine how far they can push it. But here is the twist. These Asian countries are not taking it lying down. Countries like Vietnam and the Philippines are small compared to China, but they're saying they're willing to stand up. And these joint military exercises are a way to show China that we're ready for you. Now, just last week, while all this was happening, Vietnam's new president in his first foreign trip made a trip to China. President Xi Jinping rode out the red carpet and probably expecting to sweet talk Vietnam into a deal. After all, China is Vietnam's largest trading partner, and they have a lot in common, right? Wrong. While signing 14 agreements and smiling in front of the camera, Vietnam is playing a different game. Vietnam knows that China is not a friend, at least not a real one. At the end of the day, Vietnam knows that China is the biggest threat to its sovereignty in the South China Sea. Just take a look at the Spratly Islands. Vietnam is actively building artificial islands there, thumbing their nose into China's claims. It's a delicate dance. Vietnam is trying to be diplomatic on the surface, but underneath they are also preparing for the worst. So, just like a delicate dance, here's a fun fact. 80% of you are not subscribed to our channel, and that can be just a miscalculation, similar to a territorial dispute where you miscalculate your biggest threat. So let's flip the script and don't be a part of the silent majority, but be part of the 20% that are subscribed to our channel in order to get the best information. Just like a game of geopolitical chess, information is power, and you definitely want to know what is happening next. And where were we? Yes. So what does this mean in the grand scheme of things? China is playing a dangerous game, but Vietnam and the Philippines are not just bystanders. They are active participants in this high-stakes drama. By teaming up, they're sending a message to Beijing that we're not going to roll over. And the fact that more US companies are moving to Vietnam is adding to this pressure. Vietnam is in a unique position. It's not only confronting China like the Philippines, but it's also playing the long game, diversifying alliances and creating other defenses. This isn't about bluster or bravado. It's really about survival. Vietnam fully understands that subtlety is just as important as confrontation in order to win in this long game. So keep your eyes on the South China Sea because this is far from over. Alliances are shifting, stakes are getting higher, and Vietnam and the Philippines are showing that the smallest players can still make the biggest waves. And here is where it gets interesting, especially if you're in the business world. When tensions between other countries and China continues to rise, US companies look for other frontiers like Vietnam. This has happened before. When a country gets too risky or unstable, US companies look for safe harbors. With Vietnam's growing economy, strategic location, and let's face it, less hostility towards the West, Vietnam is becoming that safe harbor for many of these US companies. But don't think for a second that this move is to find cheap goods. This is about strategy. Vietnam offers what China cannot: stability, reliability, and a government, although it is what it is, will not turn against you overnight. US companies are moving out of China not just because of the tariffs or trade wars, but they see the writings on the wall. Due to China's aggressive stance in the South China Sea, confrontations with its neighbors, and its increasingly authoritarian domestic policies, making it a risky bet. And here's where we come in. Setting up a business or a factory is not just about finding another place to operate. It's about securing your future in a region that is becoming increasingly important in the global stage. Our law firm has helped many companies make that smooth transition. And it's not just about moving, but moving with purpose. We understand the intricacies of doing business in Vietnam, from the legal frameworks to the cultural nuances. In conclusion, the South China Sea is not just a hotbed of territorial disputes, but it's really a litmus test for the future of Asia. Vietnam and the Philippines confronting against China should be an action that the world should take note. It is not just about defending a few reefs and rocks. It's about challenging a superpower with its global ambitions and how smaller nations can defend themselves. In this interconnected world, their fight is our fight. So if you're interested in geopolitics, business opportunities, or just staying ahead, remember that Vietnam and the Philippines are leading the way. So in order to stay informed, make sure that you like our Facebook page and follow all our social media. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, comment below about this dispute, and of course, click on the bell for notifications. So on behalf of Duong Global, my name is Ken Duong. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.